Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good
Waalaikum.
morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. So we are from Group A. Want to share our insight on metabolic shift in fasting and cancer cells. It is glycolysis or gluconeogenesis. Next. So before we start, I would like to introduce our group. So our group consists of four people. With me, Laila Indah Putri Wulandari, and my friends Muhammad Adiatma, Dara Junirfa, and Febriadi Davin Estiawan. Next. So this is the case that we are going to discuss in this PPT. So based on literature studies, Staden reported that under 24-hour fasting conditions, there is an increase in the expressions of phosphoenolpyruvate carboxykinase, fructose 1,6-biphosphate, glucose 6-phosphatase. Meanwhile, in certain cancer cell cultures, it was found increased hexokinase 2, increased pyruvate kinase M2, and high lactate production, even though oxygen is available. Next. Okay. So let's start with question number one. Which pathway is dominant under fasting conditions? So in the fasting state, the dominant metabolic pathway is gluconeogenesis. So during fasting, our blood glucose is decreased because there is no food intake. And to maintain stable blood glucose, our body must produce glucose. And how our body do that? Uh, our body change the metabolic pathway from glycolysis to gluconeogenesis. So what is gluconeogenesis? Gluconeogenesis is the synthesis of glucose from non-carbohydrate precursors like lactate, amino acids, and glycerol. And based on literature studies on 24-hour fasting conditions, there is an increase in the expressions of several enzymes, where these enzymes are specific enzyme in the gluconeogenesis process. This is can be proved that during fasting, the dominant metabolic pathways is gluconeogenesis process, and gluconeogenesis happen in liver and kidney, and it is helped to maintain the glucose level in the blood so that the brain and muscle can extract sufficient glucose from it to meet their metabolic demands. Next. Why is gluconeogenesis not simply the reverse of glycolysis? Because in glycolysis, there are three reactions that have a very negative free energy change. So these reactions cannot proceed in reverse under physiological conditions, or we can say that it is thermodynamically irreversible. However, gluconeogenesis requires new reactions as an alternative pathway to bypass the essential irreversibility of three reactions in glycolysis by using bypass enzymes such as phosphoenolpyruvate carboxykinase, fructose 1,6-biphosphate, and glucose 6-phosphatase. Next. Next, the three irreversible steps of glycolysis and their bypass enzymes in gluconeogenesis. First, glucose phosphorylations. It is a conversion of glucose to glucose 6-phosphate catalyzed by hexokinase, and their bypass enzyme in gluconeogenesis is glucose 6-phosphatase. Second, fructose 6-phosphate phosphorylations. It is the conversion of fructose 6-phosphate into fructose 1,6-biphosphate using phosphofructokinase enzymes. And in gluconeogenesis, these steps using bypass enzyme fructose 1,6-biphosphatase. And the last step, formations of pyruvate. It is conversions of phosphoenolpyruvate into pyruvate using pyruvate kinase. And in gluconeogenesis, using bypass enzyme pyruvate carboxylase and phosphoenolpyruvate carboxykinase. Next will be explained by my friend.
On the next, we will talk about the role of insulin and glucagon, glycolysis and gluconeogenesis. So the hepatic glucose production is the end. There's various pathways such as gluconeogenesis and also glucoformation, glucogenolysis, glucogen breakdown, and glucogen synthesis. We can see in this picture glucogen synthesis. It is the same reaction for glycolysis, but different. Glucose 1-phosphate will enter the dialdehyde transferase and glucogen synthesized to produce a glycogen. So when during fasting or stress, high glucogen and glucorticoid, the name is hormone stress, in the PGC1 alpha, activated the PGC1 alpha, and then the gluconeogenesis gains activated. In the end, blood sugar rises. And when we after eating get a high insulin to inhibit PGC1 alpha and FOXO1, next gluconeogenesis stop. So in the end, blood sugar or drop or stabilize. So the next we will talk about the role of insulin and glucagon in glycolysis and gluconeogenesis. So I will talk before when we fasting, glucagon tone is higher than insulin tone, but when eating, the insulin tone is higher than glucagon tone. So when we eating, then insulin will react in the receptor in the CR, will activate the AKT, and then AKT will activate the GCK to out of the nucleus, and then the GCK enzyme will react with the glucose molecule to produce a glycogen. But when we have fasting, uh, the glucagon tone is higher than insulin tone. The glucagon in the receptor GCGR will activate the CMP increase, activate the PKA, and then the PKA is will inhibits or not activate with the GCK, and then GCK not out of nucleus. And then the PKA will produce a glycogen, and then glycogen will react in this to produce a nucleus. The glycogen produce glucose. Glucose will out of our blood with a GLUT2 receptor. And then we have a choose or substrate to get gluconeogenesis when we're fasting. The first from co-recycling for to produce a lactate, while adipose tissue, tissue in our lipid, and then pyruvate. And then pyruvate in the mitochondria to mitochondria to get oxaloacetate increase to get a gluconeogenesis. So it is a difference in allosteric regulation between the PVK1 and PVPS1. So when we fasting, glucagon triggers the phosphorylation of PVPS2, deactivated the PVPS2, and then the PVPS2 will decrease the fructose 2,6-B phosphate. Also, the fructose 2-B phosphate will decrease to activate the PVPS1. This reaction is gluconeogenesis. So and then when we are eating, this will triggers the relate of phosphate to activate the PVK2, and then the PVK2 will produce a fructose 2,6-B phosphate will increase to activate the PVK2. This reaction is glucoglycolysis reaction. So why can both pathway gluconeogenesis not be maximal active in the same time? Because the first to maintain energy, the full cycle, because the cell will only burn ATP energy continuously without producing any change in product. The next is enzyme localization glucokinase in the nucleus in when we fasting, and out of nucleus when we eating. And then we'll talk about the 20-hour fasting versus increased cell culture. When the cancer cell often instead of hypoxia of low oxygen, we stabilize a high AF1 transcription factor. It is factor will increase the hexokinase enzyme to produce a glucose 6 phosphate. And then the glucose 6 phosphate will activate it react with the G6PD into pentose phosphate pathway to produce nucleotic and amino acid synthesis. This product used for repeat cell division. And then the difference with the normal cells is a PKM2 tetramer, but the cancer cell PKM2 dimer. So when we are in the cancer cell, to get a lower pyruvate concentration, and then the pyruvate lower pyruvate concentration, we react with LDHA to produce a lactate, and to this lactate it is cause acidic in our blood and in our blood. So next the pyruvate in the mitochondria, they produce a citrate. In the normal cell, citrate is burned for energy, but the cancer cell, citrate is back into the cytosol to forming a new cell membrane when cancer cell divide in the lipid synthesis. Okay, the next presentation, I explain with my friend.
Okay, for the next is the expression of the enzyme data on fasting conditions, which is a fasting condition because the decrease in the expression of glycolysis enzyme. This is not supporting glycolysis dominance, but instead the metabolism shift from the Warburg effect or the aerobic glycolysis is this using for the cancer cells to mitochondrial respiration metabolism or oxidative phosphorylations. By this picture, we can see the decreases of the enzyme, the main glycolysis, which is the hexokinase 2, phosphorofructokinase, pyruvate kinase, and lactate dehydrogenase. And number 3G, we also can see the decrease in the lactate productions. By we see the picture is with CTR is the normal condition, and the STS is the short-term starvation. In the starvation is make it decreasing production of the lactate. The next slide is about the starvation process, which is the starvation reduce the glucose uptake. At the top, you can see the starvation glucose into the GLUT1 and the GLUT2. This is the arrows is pointed to down. It meant the decreasing of the GLUT1 and GLUT2 expressions. After that, it also the same with the enzyme. like HQ2, GPA, PFK, L2, and the others. Because there, this cancer cell, not all of it to glycolysis, but also there is anti-Warburg effect. For the clear, Warburg effect is the phenomenon, uh, which is the cancer cell preventively use glycolysis to produce lactate even when the oxygen is available. So the anti-Warburg effect is using to decreasing the lactate production. This is using for the mitochondrial respiration metabolism. The mitochondrial respiration will be increased. Also, you can see that the arrow line is to the top. This is the because the in the mitochondria also have the some complexes by the complex 1 until the complexes 5. This electron this represent the electron transport chains, which is the indicates of the oxygen consumption increase, also for the mitochondrial respiration increase, but the ATP production will decrease. So the question for the if the lactate is increased, which is the first way it cut the train there. So if the lactate increase, the pathway active is the glycolysis pathway, which is the cancer cell, because the Warburg effect before. Also, the mechanism is also similar to this starvation process. Okay.
Of glycolysis and gluconeogenesis pathway, ATP cost versus ATP yield. In terms of energy efficiency, there is a stark contrast between their cost and yield. Glycolysis is an energy-producing process, although it requires an initial investment of 2-adenosine triphosphate or ATP. It generates 4 ATP and 2 nicotinamide adenine dinucleotides or NADH, resulting in a net gain of 2 ATP and 2 NADH per glucose molecule. On the other hand, gluconeogenesis is energetically expensive to synthesize a single molecule of glucose from pyruvate. The cell must invest a total of 6 high-energy phosphate bonds, specifically for ATP and 2 guanosine triphosphate or GTP, as well as 2 NADH. This high energy cost explains why the body only prioritizes this pathway during critical times, such as fasting, to ensure the brain and or the glucose-dependent tissues have a steady supply of fuel. Next. To wrap up our technical discussion, this slide provides a comprehensive comparison of glycolysis and gluconeogenesis. While glycolysis breaks down glucose into pyruvate or lactate, gluconeogenesis does the opposite, using no-carbohydrate precursors like lactate, glycerol, and glucogenic amino acid to recreate glucose. The most vital takeaway here is the reciprocal regulation. Notice how the same molecule act as opposing signal. For example, adenosine monophosphate or AMP and fructose 2,6-biphosphate active the K enzyme glycolysis, such as phosphofructokinase 1, but inhibit those in gluconeogenesis like fructose 1,6-biphosphate. This prevents what we call a futile cycle, ensuring the body doesn't waste energy by running both pathways at maximum capacity simultaneously. Furthermore, we can see the glycolysis dominate during the fat state under high insulin, whereas gluconeogenesis take over during fasting or starvation, where glucagon levels are high. Next. This is the reference we use in this PPT.
Okay, so I think that's all we can explain to you. I hope these presentations can increase our knowledge So thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.